May Jesus be praised, and onward with Mary. Good and holy day to all of you, dear children, in the sacred hearts of Jesus and Mary, and in the most chaste heart of Saint Joseph. Welcome back to our morning segment, Saint and Coffee. Today is Monday, the 7th of October, a day of great Marian celebration, because it is the feast of Our Lady of the Rosary. What an extraordinary title. It's one of those I like the most. I like two titles in the Litany of Loreto, two tonterias I particularly enjoy, and they are the Queen of the Rosary, the title I love above all, the title that truly sets my heart ablaze just by uttering the words Queen of the Rosary. I feel the power and the victory. When I say Queen of the Rosary, I see the false church destroyed and turned to ashes, so it's a title I like the most. I hold dear, close to my heart, Queen of the Rosary. The other is Ivory Tower, but of course I don't have time to explain why now. Today, indeed, the 7th of October, is the feast of Our Lady of the Rosary. Here on my right, we see the Madonna of the Rosary of Pompeii, because she is emblematic. But today's celebration particularly commemorates the victory of the Catholic troops led by John of Austria. By the will of Pope St. Pius V against the Muslims at Lepanto, in the epic Battle of Lepanto that took place on the 7th of October 1571. Through the power of the Rosary, this unexpected and unforeseen victory was achieved against the Muslims who wanted to reach Rome. This at a time when the Church from the north was harassed by Lutheran heresy, Lucifer to the north, the Muslims to the east. The Church was saved. It's good to remember, this is good to remember, with the Rosary. I believe we all need to make an even greater effort to understand the importance the Rosary holds in the eyes of God. The Rosary will save the Church. It's the Rosary that will defeat these powerful enemies who, like heretical impostors, Freemasons, Satanists, are in the Vatican. And this feast announces, because it is also called the Queen of the Rosary or Queen of Victories, it announces victory, victories, because it could be Queen of Victory, as it recalls the historical event at Lepanto against the Muslims. In reality of victories, all personal victories. Anyone who prays the Rosary triumphs over temptations, triumphs over the attacks of Satan, and achieves victories not only personal, but also ecclesiastical, historical. The true victories that the Rosary achieves are yet to come. In the bosom of God, the greatest victory that the Rosary will achieve is reserved, the one against Bergoglio and the false church. When Catholicism triumphs once more, it will triumph with the crown of the Holy Rosary in hand. Queen of Victories, then. Now let's go over that for a moment. Yesterday I confessed quite a bit, a bit in Milan, having clarified to all the faithful that according to Pope Francis, Holy Pope, Pope of Mercy, I am excommunicated due to my secular state. However, I've noticed something with the penitents, that a good number, it's sad to say, of penitents complain. They chase their own tail because they're unwell, because they suffer. They are troubled by evil, can't beat temptations. Then you dig. I ask just one question each time, just one. But do you pray the Rosary? Oh, look, it's statistical. It's really statistical. I don't have the time. Maybe sometimes I can't manage it. That's the problem. Why, on the other hand, many others, to be honest, when I said pray the Rosary, they replied, sure. Today is a very important feast. Our Lady of the Holy Rosary, who is also the Queen of Victories. Yesterday we experienced a historic moment of grace. I say historic in Milan. The more the media remains silent about us, the more it becomes history. If we were truly in a state governed by the rule of law and not under a mediocratic regime, the media oligarchy, manipulating information, they should have said that in the very secular Milan, coming from all over Italy, we had thousands of faithful who crowded a hall like the one you saw. Images that speak for themselves. It seemed once again, and God allows it, that everything would end with the acquisition of Little Nazareth. And instead, here's the answer. Let's watch in silence this image of Don Minutella carrying the flag of Mary as he walks down the central aisle with thousands of people. I would like to say thank you to all the faithful who have come and to those who have followed from home, because not everyone can come. There are entire families who cannot move mainly for economic reasons. And today we remember this, 7th of October, when last year nothing changed. Now the director will show the images of Bologna. We are still watching those of Milan. We are here. We are alive. We do not give up. We move forward. We are even more. We will liberate Rome. The church will be saved. And this is what happened last year in Bologna. Last year's event in Bologna, by the way, was a gathering. This one wasn't, so it's obvious there were more people there, because the entire central south was missing, except for the greeting I want to send to friends in Rome and Calabria. Someone came from Apulia, but as you can see, with every snap of the fingers, we're never alone. I watch the pathetic images of Italian bishops and priests when they go on social media. The bishops. Once, when a bishop visited a parish, now the bishop, I won't name names, but there are bishops who go on social media, right? They go to the parishes if the mayor and their family weren't there. The marshal of the Carabinieri with his family, the doctors, and the entire Masonic clique of every city, there would be no one. There are no young people. There are no families. They are in total disarray. They pretend nothing is happening. But the media praise the glorious Pope Francis, who has managed to empty the parishes. The church is in St. Peter's Square, but it is Pope Francis. Then there's Domina Minutella with the brothers who, in Milan, on an ordinary day like a Sunday the 6th of October, which is neither Christmas nor Easter nor Pentecost, gathers thousands of faithful for 4.5 hours of prayer. Attention, it wasn't a conference with those verbose and chatty bishops who are there and in the dioceses wasting time in synodal sauce synodalist to understand what to do. We were there praying yesterday. Medjugorje. The new Medjugorje was Milan. You see, Milan was Medjugorje yesterday, because Medjugorje no longer really exists. Medjugorje no longer exists. Yesterday, this was Medjugorje. Thousands of people, families, young people, children, elderly, men, women, priests like us with compartments just like in Medjugorje, to hear confessions in the morning, in the afternoon, the rosary, consecration to the Madonna, sacramental blessings, the Mass, the confessions, a triumph of grace. And the newspapers, the press, in the media, nothing. If not when they have to show how ridiculous they are, they should be ashamed and throw mud in their own faces if they had a shred of human dignity. They come to my house to ask me why I detain the nuns, but they don't feel any pity. But if the information in Italy is really like this, it's pathetic. These directors, in suits and ties, in the newsrooms that matter, those interested in Don Minutella because the merciful one orders to destroy me through the media, and they send journalists to attack me, because that's how it's done. In Italy, that's how it's done. I appeal to the President of the Italian Republic. I appeal to him to defend the sacred rights that we have. There's a right to information, but there are also the ethical duties of information. They don't talk about us. Look at the images that should be commented on. Someone should comment on them. They say nothing about us, and then suddenly they come to attack. As you can see, since the work is not mine, the work belongs to the Madonna. The work continues, and yesterday it was after the dark interlude by the strong Masonic powers. For acquiring us little Nazareth, they thought once again it was over, the end, the closing credits, a nice gesture from heaven, and we move forward, and they understood that we are the real problem for everyone. I am also ashamed of Catholic social networks. I offer a reproach for what it's worth, because I know that it eventually reaches the social networks together. They are biased, and this precisely shows that they are in falsehood. If they were serious, they should say it. For the umpteenth time, this small Catholic remnant in Milan, on any ordinary day, gathered for prayer, because I repeat, we did 4.5 hours of prayer. No one talks about it. No one talks about it. No one. It's unbelievable, this media censorship. It's simply outrageous. However, everyone who was there, as always happens when they leave, is happy, joyful, with faces full of joy. Then there was the beautiful moment I personally experienced of the blessing for the children. And so now we turn and move forward. Let's move forward, my dear children. First of all, yesterday I was able to present these 2 books of mine. Here they are. I'm holding them together. They are now available. You can ask the Secretariat. And as we will be traveling around Italy, and not just Italy, we'll take them with us. They are my latest 2 works. We also have all my other books, because I've written several books now. This is The False Church and Its Destiny, which was published in 2017 in New. The graphic design is shown by the direction, then there it is. And then especially this one, the first volume of commentary on the Gospel of John, The Eagle and the Sun. I'm pleased to have published them, and I'm glad that many copies of this book were sold yesterday. I'm truly delighted about this. I first thank the fellow priests who have gone above and beyond in confession and collaboration for these 4.5 hours of prayer. I would like to thank the entire organizational staff, especially Simona from Milan, who has always been incredibly dedicated. I thank her and also the staff accompanying me, who worked tirelessly until late at night, until midnight, to arrange everything. Look, there's a grueling amount of work done by my team of collaborators, simply grueling. I also thank you for the condolences I have received, and now I wanted to inform you about the upcoming events we will experience. This week in particular, on Wednesday, the 9th of October, we are in Bergamo. All meetings will start at 4:30 in the afternoon. In Bergamo with Celestino and me. Next Saturday, here we are in Lugano, Switzerland, in the Italian-speaking canton, for a meeting with the faithful of Switzerland, for those who want to come from areas like Como, Milan, etc. And on Sunday, the 13th of October, anniversary of the last apparition of Our Lady of Fatima, with the phenomenon of the sun, we will be in Turin. Here for now, we are only giving these details, and the others will follow as needed. Wednesday in Bergamo, Saturday in Turin. 12th of October, next Saturday in Lugano, Switzerland, and Sunday the 13th of October in Turin. I will tell you about the other meetings and stops later. I just want to say, however, the most important appointment of all will be Saturday, the 2nd of November, the commemoration of the faithful departed in Verona. A moment of grace it will be, for we can pray for our departed. I thought of doing this, since we're always inside. We make them Catholic, but they are anonymous. You can bring a photo of your loved ones with you. We will place it, I will have a spot prepared beside the altar where you can put the photos of your deceased on a kind of adhesive screen. We will place them there, and everyone can bring a candle that cannot be lit. Certainly, then we can find a way to light them outside or somewhere else. A candle and the offering of the Mass. This I say because you know that the offering of the Mass is expected if you can, but it would be useful to do so because it is intended for your deceased. From today, you can start calling the Radio Domina Nostra office to provide the names of your deceased. I don't think that I foresee for Saturday, the 2nd of November. Moreover, it's a Saturday, a participation. Come to Verona, pray for your departed loved ones on Saturday, the 2nd of November. It's a moment of grace. We will offer the solemn Holy Mass for all our dear departed, so they may enter heaven if they are still in purgatory and find peace, eternal peace. As we say in eternal rest, grant them eternal rest, O Lord. So Saturday, the 2nd of November at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And at 4:30, we will gather in Verona for the commemoration of the faithful departed. We will create an adhesive screen where you can stick, place, or apply the photo of your deceased loved ones so that during the Mass we have them all around us. We will place candles at their feet, which we cannot light. Perhaps we will light just one for all the others. Maybe we will place the Paschal candle, and then all the others can be lit at home, wherever you wish. But this Saturday, the 2nd of November, is very important. You can already start giving the names of your deceased loved ones, as long as they are not excessively numerous. Before the Mass, I will read out these names. Otherwise, God knows who they are. Anyway, in the meantime, I'll repeat. Next Wednesday, the 9th of October in Bergamo, Saturday the 12th in Lugano, Sunday the 13th in Turin. The use of physical and spiritual energies is recovered from oneself, you see. It is recovered from oneself. The problem is the use of economic energies, which, as you can imagine, is there and is considerable. I have great faith in Providence, and thank the Holy Madonna for not letting us lack anything. But I beg you not to make us go into apnea, because since they acquired little Nazareth, we are now working to find a way, as I don't think they will arrive soon. The permits haven't arrived in Trebasaleschi, because I remember the illegal worker from Sicily went to Veneto to remove an asbestos roof. It's truly grotesque. It's like an Italian comedy. The only illegal worker from Sicily went to Veneto to remove an asbestos roof that had been there for years, yet they won't give us the permits in Trebasaleschi, and I don't think they'll give them to us soon, in Carini either. So we're preparing in some way, because I remind you that on the 27th of December, I invite you to come when I'll be there. For the Christmas holidays, I'll be down. After the Immaculate Conception, I'll go down. Until the Immaculate Conception, I'm around. Then I'll go down. But on the 27th of December, I'm down there because I'm celebrating the anniversary of my priestly ordination, 25 years of Mass. So I expect you don't miss this appointment and help us with the postal current account, which is more immediate. However, also with the new international bank account number that we were forced to change again due to, let's call them, technical issues. All in all, thank God everything is fine. Here then we can review the images from yesterday's meeting. An additional word I would like to mention is an event of the Holy Spirit. It looked like the square of Medjugorje. It's not possible to pray for 4.5 hours straight. There was no chatter. The only moment was Don Enrico's sermon. Then after that, it was prayer for 4.5 hours. We started at 2:30 at exactly, and we finished just before 7 o'clock. Look at the composure and devotion of these thousands of faithful. And do you think the pseudo-Catholic mainstream oncom, and especially the Italian Masonic power, will want to continue pretending nothing is happening? You make a spectacular impression. Look at this. They're all crazy, right? This Don Minutella is crazy, and these are all people, but we're the sectarians, right? Bergoglio, who instead has changed the gospel, gives communion to the divorced and remarried, when Matthew in the Gospel says, chapter 19, that it cannot be done. No, they are Catholics. We are sectarian because we decided to come. But anyway, today is the feast of Our Lady of the Rosary. Sooner or later, victory will come. You see, victory will come. It's just a matter of time. Since yesterday, there was no segment of The Father Responds, I wanted to remind you of the evening appointments, because the broadcast of Radio Domina Nostra naturally continues. So I'll quickly remind you of the evening appointments. First of all, this evening at 9 o'clock, the series of catechesis related to the Confraternity of the Holy Rosary continues. Yesterday we had the register with us. I wanted to bring it here, but it slipped my mind. The register of the Confraternity of the Holy Rosary. Sign up, dear children. It's a grace to pray the 3 rosaries every day. Don't let the devil ensnare you into believing you can't succeed. Do it because it's important. And then afterwards, this is the register of the Brotherhood of the Holy Rosary. Sign up. You can do it even when we go to the meetings we will hold around Italy and also Switzerland, and we will also be in Brussels soon. This evening at 9 o'clock, there is the catechesis. We continue the exploration of the beasts. We have reached the 13th. So thank God we only have 3 left, 13, 14, and 15. This evening is the most important one, perhaps the most relevant, the harlot of apostasy. All the others are male monsters. This one is female, because she is the prostitute who evokes Babylon the Great, the harlot of apostasy. And then Tuesday, tomorrow, the 8th of October, the 7th episode from this book of mine, which is now available. You can request it at the office, The False Church and Its Destiny. The title is The Mass and Communion in the Hand. It was a topic that was dear to me then and is still dear to me today. You can find it in the book for those who already got it yesterday in Milan. Wednesday, for the Biblical Catechesis series, it's Don Errico's turn to comment on the Gospel of the 21st Sunday after Pentecost. Thursday, we resume with the 7th episode of the meditation from my book, The Symphony of the Lamb on the Apocalypse. There will be the 3rd episode related to the septenary of the churches. We've seen Ephesus and Smyrna, now it's Pergamum's turn. Here is the 3rd letter, the Church of Pergamum. And then on Saturday, that beautiful series continues. I've even received congratulations for this series of catechesis, Little Great Heroes of Faith. I hope to deliver the book that tells their stories by Christmas if I can, so you can keep it and read it to your children. So next Saturday, the 8th and 9th episodes of the series Little Great Heroes of Faith will feature Nelson Santana, who sounds like a football player. Nelson Santana sounds like a football player or an ethnic singer-songwriter. Here is Nelson Santana, there he is. But instead he was a child who died at 9 years old, who suffered greatly during the beatification process, and he is indeed Brazilian. So we're going back to Brazil, and this surprised me. We talked about Antonino of Odetigna. Now it's Nelson Santana's turn. 9 years old. You'll hear his story. All right, that's a bit of the plan. All right, I remember the appointments. Wednesday in Bergamo, Saturday in Lugano, Sunday in Turin. And now, while I once again hope that the images from yesterday's meeting can flow in an engaging sequence, to be viewed together with those from Bologna, from Florence, and so on, let's move on to today's window. In these last few minutes, today's title is The Whims and Retaliations of Bergoglio. Connected to what we say, we are the small Catholic remnant that makes the Vatican tremble. I have no doubt about that. You can tell by how they react. I remind you that the 2 excommunications imposed on me at the same time are a clear sign of the fear on the other side. 2 excommunications have never been given together. It has never happened. It has never occurred to give 2 excommunications at the same time. What we are experiencing is simply astonishing. You know that in the past few days, Dr. Andrea Cionci was supposed to hold a meeting, as he does, with elegance, with style, in compliance with the laws. Unfortunately, it must be emphasized, in compliance with Italian laws in Ascoli Piceno. At the last moment, despite having obtained permission, the council, the mayor, I don't know who, prohibited the meeting. I find it serious. And it's a sign that there are truly Freemasons in the Vatican, the Masonic powers, and the unfortunate una cum pretend nothing is happening. It's extremely serious, because then the municipality is the one that allows the Reggie Beggi, or whoever, the groups, Satanists, the rockers, the metalheads who destroy and do and say, the Scientologists, the food and wine enthusiasts, anyone granted permission by the council as long as there is respect for the laws. This room is available, it costs such and such, and please remember these are the rules. Right? Are we in a democratic state? Perhaps. Why was Dr. Scianci prevented, I think, for reasons of public order, if I remember correctly? But we're in a comedy. Solidarity to Dr. Cianci. He truly deserves it, because thank God, he is an upright and unyielding person who doesn't give in for reasons of public order, because he brought along, since he's also a tenor, Cianci, you see, carried a pole and started singing La Donna è mobile, then began hitting everyone, you know? We're really at the point of absurdity. It's not like, as Cianci himself points out, the bishop, you know? If so, it's grave the bishops have we are in times, but we are in the darkest and worst times the church has experienced. The support of the power, let's call it that, temporal. Those who instead speak of a free church, a poor church, a prophetic church, a church entirely gospel. Understood? The Bishop of Treviso then calls the mediator not to sell me the Trebasaleghe property, but they are mafiosi. Mafia people, they're people who will end up in hell. The Lord spits them out of his mouth. Let's pray for their conversion. And the commander acts undisturbed because he's got all the powers. Remember the apocalypse? He has all the powers at his disposal. So Dr. Cianci couldn't hold a meeting in Ascoli. Can't see why. Then maybe they come, the heavy metal fans, and they can be a nuisance. The Scientologists arrive, the witnesses of John, the apostles of the saints of the last days. The Martians arrive, everyone arrives, the circle of prostitutes, the LGBT union, these, those, and those, everyone is allowed. Dr. Cianci, no. In the same way as the gatherings of thousands of people that Don Minutella organizes in the same year, between June and October, between Florence and Milan, it is a popular movement. So it has become a cultural fact that the Italian media, if it weren't colluding with Freemasonry, should talk about, should inform, saying there is this popular reality. There is this reality not aligned with Pope Francis's church, even just to talk about it. Nothing. So that is not denied to us. Our house gets searched and taken away from us. At Trebasra, we can't build. The mayors come to an agreement with the bishops. Mayor and bishop tell Cianci that it's not possible for you. Absolutely, look, it's a situation that makes you reflect. Certainly, this shows that soon something will change, no doubt. Be certain, God allows that, only up to a point. While I was receiving news today, in the past, I traveled a lot around Europe, but lately, I've been very focused on Italy, due to all the attacks the devil stirs up, to keep the small remnant in Arion compact and united. I thank you because I received an extraordinary response from all of you, a massive presence of the small remnant that exists and is now creating a historic event, a popular movement that is not talked about, and it's better that it isn't talked about. So we continue on our path. I was saying that when I was traveling, I managed to contact another part of the world. I won't say where, of course, I'll just mention the country, Poland. A couple of priests convinced that Bergoglio is not the Pope. What happened then? We went to visit. There was Brother Celestino, Father Pavel, and me. As priests, we were the three of us from the fellowship, and we went to see this charismatic priest, very charismatic. He leads a life of great, they say at this point though, of great prayer, lives in the woods. I know his name. Lives in the woods and lives as a hermit. God won't allow Brother Saraceno. She lives as a hermit in the woods and has healing gifts. They touched my head, felt nothing. I get it now. Anyway, convinced that he had to exit right, he missed, from the false church. Bergoglio is not Pope. I won't tell you how he spoke for a couple of years about Benedict XVI, the great Benedict XVI here, Benedict XVI there, and then suddenly I hear that he has returned to the false church with Bergogliano. Why? Be careful, because the bishop has announced his suspension a divinus. Here it is, today's headline, Bergoglio's whims and retaliations. The system is purely mafioso. Thank God in the world there are priests, not many, but there are well-formed ones, connected to sound doctrine, who love tradition, the gospel, who want to go to heaven themselves with their entrusted faithful. The problem is that Bergoglio, through the partisans of Satan, who are all at the service of his whims, threatens them. The reprisals of Bergoglio, they fall for it, because this priest, although he is a hermit and claims to be in communion with God, returns in shame to the false church. These are the reprisals. And then the tantrums, because it was announced yesterday that there are new cardinals being appointed by Bergoglio. Now this is a well-deserved it slipped out, for all the unicum, because they were still there hoping. They didn't understand the first time that Domino was right, and the times are proving it. They expected Bergoglio to die soon and leave as soon as possible, and in this he is admirable. We should take a leaf out of his book, 88 years old, almost. 6 weeks. 88 years old in a wheelchair, he travels the world and has it in his grasp. It's never happened in 2,000 years, the running of things. He decides all. Nothing happens unless he knows about it first. They're all terrified to make a move. The ministries no longer exist. We are now witnessing a regime in plain sight. Certainly him, Bergoglio, who spoke of decentralization, devolution, the Group of Eight. Where have all these things gone? They're all just a setup, a mockery. He commands, he pounds his fists. He wants to keep everything under control. Names, surnames, priests, bishops, cardinals, everyone. He checks, he doesn't celebrate, I'm sure of that. Actually, speaking of which, since Dr. Scianci shouts the truth like I do, they target him. The blog, Celere non Passo, mud has been thrown at me. I'll tell you why. They've targeted without naming him. That already says it all. But why don't they name him? Why don't they say the name? Look, they're really, honestly pathetic. Why don't they mention Dr. Scianci's name? They mention him saying this in a Don Brown style, inventing the story that Bergoglio hasn't celebrated for 2.5 years. And they say here are the images that prove he doesn't celebrate, but they don't realize they're even more pathetic than before. With celebrate. You wretches, don't you wonder why at that moment he, who is the Roman pontiff, the vicar of Christ, the servant of the servants of God, the successor of Peter, is only concelebrating? Where and why is he concelebrating? What's the aim? Because if you're the Pope, all those stupid, idiotic wretches, humility, poverty, are pointless. No, you're the Pope. If you're the Pope, where he goes, daughter, he celebrates. If he misses Mass, he still presides. All right, so why do those photos show that? So in that case, once again, it's a credit to Dr. Sciocci. He's right, if that's a concelebration. The whims of shame that yesterday announced the list of new cardinals. All right, a couple of things immediately come to light because by now they deserve it, the unicum. It has been established that practically the College of Cardinals, the next pseudo-conclave, the next Masonic satanic show, foresees that I believe about 80% of the cardinals are appointed by Bergoglio. Catch this! Catch this! Catch this! How many are there? Catch this! Catch this! Catch this! Catch this! Catch this! There's not one he's made that's not aligned with Freemasonry, unlike what the pontiffs used to do. Saints! John Paul II, Paul VI, Benedict VI, and Jesus, because the church is plural, right? The bridges, the dialogue, the cytodanity, Take that. Take that. Take that. Take this. Take that. Take that. All the Bergoglian cardinals, each worse than the last. each one worse than the other. They are matricides. They kill the mother church, these cardinals made by Bergoglio. They are all, first and foremost, useless people. Useless. Not one of them has charisma. For you know that the dictator's syndrome and the regime's tendency is to assume that all collaborators are sycophants. And the sycophant par excellence, as Domina says, I've never been because I have charisma. So I've had it since I was young. So I've never been a sycophant. I can't be one because I can see the big picture of reality. And who cares what happens to me? But I hold on to it because I know it's the real one. And so I could never be a sycophant. But those who lack charisma, who lack personality, who are useless things, as who says it? Inutile things, that's not what it says. But the Apocalypse says you're neither cold nor hot, so you're a useless thing. There are no cardinals among these who stand out, note it. In the Bergoglian regime, there isn't a cardinal appointed and created by Bergoglio from the whims of the Pampero who is charismatic, who has personality. If you look at the previous ones, some of them can still enter the conclave. For better or worse, they have charisma. For example, you see Tagle. For better or worse, he's progressive, the Filipino one. But he has charisma, you can tell. He has a personality, it's clear. And also others appointed before Bergoglio. Those aligned with Bergoglio, especially the recent ones, represent a decline, a degradation that surpasses the era of Renaissance nepotism, when nephews and sons of popes and cardinals protected each other. Dei papi e dei cardinali che tra di loro si tutelavano, uno peggiore dell'altro. Worse than each. We are in worse times than the Renaissance. A college of cardinals that's pathetic. Thank goodness it's fake. You see, it's false. Because all the cardinals appointed by Bergoglio are not cardinals. There is no act carried out by Bergoglio that is valid. He's just carrying on with whims. Enough. Nothing else to say. A couple of pieces of information emerge, so the first piece is, have fun. Unicum, you deserve it. Prepare for the worst, Dominatella tells you because you deserve it. And the Madonna says, tell them, my son, tell them. Because they didn't want to listen to you, despite witnessing the immense sacrifices that no priest has experienced like you are living through, along with your fellow brothers who have joined you, heroically standing by your side. Tell them, shout it out, that they didn't want to listen to you, that the things I, Mother, told you to say have come true, but they didn't want to accept it because you said them, and so they will face even worse. And even worse, they're resigned over there now. They pretend nothing. The new Daily Compass, which is truly the pinnacle of the world, Ukum, in my opinion, does this today. Cardinals, condemnation of Africa, because there is no cardinal, I'll tell you why. However then, the Pope's day of prayer for peace in the Middle East. Wretches, hypocrites, liars, deceivers, that you are, how can you go against your conscience? Blessed heaven. How do you manage? Dr. Cascioli, how do you go against your conscience? Lai really can't understand that he is not the Pope, and that if he were the Pope, the Church would be over, and Christ's promise would have failed. Sure, here's the translation. Because then, alongside the whims and retaliations I'm telling you about, Bergoglio is above all heretical and is going against the gospel. He's apostate when he said that all religions are the same. We should have all stood up, everyone, and said, leave. We don't want you. You're not the Pope. Yesterday, like Catholics in Milan. Turning right, that's the typical Italian style, isn't it? Politics, indeed. From the 1960s to today, governments change with such speed that barely the next day, there's already a government crisis. the deals, the negotiations, the compromises. In politics, however, one can also understand that the new Daily Compass and other sites scattered across the UNACUM social constellation pretend not to notice that Bergoglio is not the Pope. And even if he is, there's a huge problem of the declared apostasy. No, here come the distressing situations. Look, embarrassing scenes. Monsignor Schneider made a confession of faith to protect and save the faith. From whom do you need to save the faith? You wretch, from the Pope. Faith in times of apostasy. You wretch. Why don't you say that it's Pope Francis who is the problem? I'm not. Do you realize? They pretend nothing happened after the statement that all religions are equal, and that it doesn't matter which religion you belong to. Serious Catholics with guts or a conscience should have come forward and said that Don Minutella is the most disagreeable of all. Let's make a deal. We acknowledge that he is right, but if it bothers us to see him because it unpleasantly reminds us of our past mistakes, we will ask the group to have him step aside and let Celestino or Don Pavel lead the small remainder. I would accept that. I'll do like Bergoglio, pretend to step aside and then lead from behind to trick these unfortunate UNACUM. I am the cancer of tender Catholicism, the UNACUM, not the Bergoglians. Why, you see, the Bergoglians are enthusiastic about Pope Francis, etc. But dear children, the Bergoglians are also the end of the line. I mean, what will happen? The post-Bergoglio, what is it? Bo. Got it? The problem is the UNACUM, because their hypocrisy is infuriating. Until this morning, the new Daily Busara comments on the new appointments by Pope Francis, where it is said that he punished the African Church for not accepting the pleading trust. Because, the African bishops, Bergoglio is incredible, admirable, of extraordinary consistency. I'm not joking when I say this. He wasn't randomly chosen by the world's powerful elites. All bow before him. As trust supplicants, the blessing of gay couples, the African bishops said no. Oh, really? I'm showing you. There is no African cardinal. Africa's too big. Africa now has about 1 billion inhabitants, and a good part of them are Catholics closely connected to Rome. No, nothing. You don't deserve it. While in Milan, I find this really the whims. While in Milan, since I'm still moving around, Milan, you go to Piazza Duomo. I mean, perhaps few Milanese know that under the arcades on the side street, there are tercets or passages from the novel The Betrothed. Manzoni, who sets The Betrothed, well, we're in Milan. I couldn't help but mention it again, Manzoni's work. Set in 17th century Milan, The Betrothed describes Renzo's amazement, a countryman, a provincial man, when he arrives in Milan, in front of the Duomo. We are in the 17th century, the cathedral. And so Milan is the largest diocese in the world. The Bishop of Milan does not enter the conclave. The altar boy from Como gets involved instead. Como is a small diocese, meaning it's dependent on Milan. All right, that one was made a cardinal who has no... One of these cardinals, this is what Bergoglio wants. One doesn't even notice they exist because they're useless things. They have no personality. All right, the one from Milan. The one from Milan is not made a cardinal, but instead, listen, the one from Turin is now made a cardinal. Now, Lepore, I believe it's Bergoglio's whims, I'm telling you. Lepore, for those with short memories, go read my book, Church, Where Are You Going?, which is now a bestseller like Peter, Where Are You? For those with short memories, not me, you'll remember now. Do you remember when I recounted in this book of mine that serves as a guide for you? Because against fact there is no argument. Do you remember when the sensational case of the books related to the theological thought of Pope Francis broke out, for which the Secretary of the Vatican Dicastery for Communication had asked Pope Benedict, who was already retired, "Courage, Dr. Cianci, we have to defend." Incredible. All right, the Secretary had asked Pope Benedict, who was already retired, in redundancy payment, to write the preface for books that narrate the thoughts of Pope Francis. I don't know if you remember what Benedict XVI did with an elegance that only he could have, saying, "I'm sorry I'm old. I don't have the ability. I wouldn't have the time. I wouldn't have the time." Only to have written other books later, to say, "Never ever will I write a preface for the book that narrates." Here, do you know who edited those volumes there? Want to know? The current sycophant Lepore. Now he's a cardinal. The church is full of these damned sycophants who can't wait to lick the despot's feet to get their own slice of power. What a pathetic scene. Fortunately, there's still a little bit left. Fortunately, it's not over. Among the cardinals, in the list of cardinals, and I conclude for today, appears also, here, Father Timothy Radcliffe. Hey, no, yes! This is an impromptu dialogue. We communicate like monkeys because we have little time. With Brother Celestino, there's a perfect harmony. You've seen how we communicate, like monkeys. Yes, rightly so. He's astonished because it's truly a disgrace. It's just, look, Pope Francis can do whatever the heck he wants. Because there's Director Cascioli, and there's the New Daily Compass, there's Dorotea Lanciati, there's Father Serafino Lanzetta, there's Monsignor Strickland, there's Monsignor Schneider. Papa, right there. These people recognize me as Pope. I do whatever the heck I want. Destroy them, take away their centers, use temporal power against them, throw them in jail, get rid of them, persecute them in the media, make sure they have no following. Father Timothy Radcliffe, for those not in the know, is, let's say, the Dominican theologian who has been pro-gay, pro-LGBT, hyper-modernist, hyper-progressive for a lifetime. Even before Bergoglio, he was writing, I remember already in seminary, scandalous books that openly went against the word of Christ, always with that sickly, sweet, merciful tone, the poor, the least. The marginalized in the church. It's been a lifetime that this one says there are marginalized in the church. Who are the gays? The women who can't serve at the altar because they are not deaconesses. And Pope Francis, what a fool he is, doesn't understand what this one wants. Who wants to see deaconesses? Who wants the destruction of Catholicism? He has the merit of being chosen by Lucifer. So how was he born? Where was he born? What happened? What is his background? Lucifer elected him. The great prelate is sent by God. Bergoglio is sent by Satan. Clear that up there. Those who don't have this vision are out. He manages, hope they save their soul. Let's just hope for the best, my dear ones, and maybe tomorrow we'll continue. Meanwhile, it was to let you know that my collaborators tell me, and I thank them, that Cianci, thank God, will still hold the conference in Ascoli Piceno, but at the Guidarocchi Hotel. Well done, Dr. Cianci. Keep going without stopping. So I warmly invite the faithful from the Marche region. Are we in the Marche? Yes, indeed, from the Marche region, and also from Abruzzo, Marche Abruzzo, and why not from Lazio? Go to the meeting to the conference, it's not a meeting, it's a conference, of Dr. Cionci and Ascoli Piceno at the Hotel Guidarati to give a proper response, as they deserve, to these wretched court sycophants who will meet a terrible end in the mud and mire of Satan. May God forgive them and save their souls, but to do so, they must shout the truth, and they must help us free Rome from deceit. Now there's room for a couple of phone calls. You can call for this or for something else. Meanwhile, I remind you tonight at 9 o'clock, as the historical images from last night play normally. The Republic, the Evening Courier. This evening, I await you at 9 o'clock for the catechesis of the Brotherhood of the Holy Rosary, the harlot of apostasy, and the third to last beast we must fight with the recitation of the Holy Rosary.